Now, a lot of you are concerned about what's happening with Canada and Mexico. Well, you remember that 15% I talked about? Canada and Mexico only produce 5% of that. That means between both of them, they only produce 5% of the United States GDP.
Hello and welcome to the right angle. Let's jump into it. So we've heard a lot about tariffs this week. With the recent tariffs that Trump has threatened, you've had to have a lot of people freaking out about it. And a lot of people on the left talking about how awful it is and the same old rigmarole that they usually do. However, what people don't understand is that tariffs, well, I would say as far as their use, can be used to modify behavior. For those that don't know about these tariffs, here's a quick education.
Hey, you liberal fruitcakes. See a lot of you crying over tariffs, saying it's going to destroy the economy. Want to look at trade economics? First, a tariff is a tax imposed on a country's imported goods and services. The United States only imports 15% of goods and services internationally. The rest is domestic. Now, a lot of you are concerned about what's happening with Canada and Mexico. Well, you remember that 15% I talked about? Canada and Mexico only produce 5% of that. That means between both of them, they only produce 5% of the United States GDP. So guess what? This trade war is going to turn both of those places into a third world country, although Mexico already is one. Now the reality is we don't want that, but the United States is tired of being taken advantage of by the countries who are refusing to pay their fair share. And we all know you guys want fair share. And tariffs are a way of achieving that. Now let's look at Canada. 20% of the GDP of Canada comes from the United States trade agreements. And 75% of their trade happens with the United States. Now that means if prices go up because of imported goods from Canada, Americans are going to refuse to buy them. Meaning, Canada's not going to make any money. And as we're 75% of their trade, that's going to be detrimental to their economy. And Mexico doesn't even remotely have a leg to stand on, with 40% of their GDP tied into American export. Now I know you're going to say that Canada's threatened to turn off power to Americans. Well, we'll just raise the tariff. They're not going to turn it off. Do you know why? Because Canada's utilities is $55 billion in debt, which means they can't afford to turn off the United States' power. Now you're going to say that other countries are going to stop trading with America. Well, they only make up 10% of the GDP of the United States. And we'll just pull funding from NATO, because we fund 75% of that. Which means all of them would have to cut their social services, like Canada paying reparations rather than investing in their own military. Which they didn't. They spent more money on social services than investing in their own military. The reality is tariffs are good when coupled with tax cuts for the United States. Yes, it will be inflationary. The numbers that we're seeing are about 0.5%. But coupled with the elimination of income tax, it would be negligible to the United States. So stop crying. Tariffs provide leverage. And America is going to put America first.
America first is something that we all voted for, people that voted for Trump. And it wasn't, it wasn't one of these politician lies that, like the last administration promised you the moon and came in and took your money. This is not what this is. And in the video, a key word there was leverage. So leverage is a key thing. And, it's leverage that we need to have those that are supposed to be our allies, supposed to be our friends. It's that leverage that we need to have them do the things that we need them to help us in this partnership. People say, well, how can you do this to Mexico and Canada? They're our neighbors. Well, obviously, yeah, that's true. But what kind of neighbor allows mass amounts of people to cross into your country from theirs, like the caravans that go from South Mexico into northern Mexico? But what kind of neighbors allows mass amounts of fentanyl to flood our streets? Yes, we have the cartels flooding in from the south, but in Canada, there's over 14 or 4,000 criminal organizations. So organizations that have hundreds and thousands of people in them each. 4,000 individual organizations that sell fentanyl and cross it illegally from the northern border into the United States. So what kind of neighbor allows that? This is not a game. This is for the betterment of our people. America first means America first, means Americans first. And we got to stop taking care of the world before we take care of our own people. Like Jordan Peterson says, clean up your room before you criticize the world. So stopping illegal immigration and drugs is the least these two can do for us. We do so much for them. And, some also say that Trump is doing this rashly, that he has no plan, that he's just coming in, he's shooting from the hip, that he doesn't know what he's doing. But you haven't been paying attention because that's not true. He's been saying this for years. Here's a video from 2013.
And somebody said, well, what would you do? What can you do? So easy. I drop a 25% tax on China. And I said to somebody that it's really the messenger. The messenger is important. I could have one man say, we're going to tax you 25%. And I could say another, listen, you motherfuckers, we're going to tax you 25%.
And it's true. It's all about the message. One of those things about the 2020 elections is I think it gave Trump time to really sink into what his plans would be when he returns to the office. Although I'm still upset about all the bad things that happened in 2020, I think a lot of people still need to be charged and brought to justice. But I really think God saved him from this time, and I prayed for him quite a bit, especially in July, in the second assassination. But any time he had to plan, he had time to obviously build strategy. And that's what you're seeing from him. I mean, in 2 weeks, he's done more than Biden ever did in 4 years. And really, it's glorious. And now, obviously, like I said before, Canada and Mexico are our neighbors. And we don't really want that relationship to be strained. I've been seeing some things on X and some different sites I use to do research so I can bring this to y'all. And even some people on my side are like, kind of like this underlying sort of animus and meanness about the Canadians and the Mexicans. The Canadians and Mexicans are our brothers. They just need to do their part. We do so much for them. We basically protect Mexico and Canada. No one can attack them. And we're just asking them, hey, control your borders. It's not even like we're asking them to control ours. We're saying, control your own borders. Don't let caravans through your country. And it's things like that we just have to have partnership on. And it's rational. It's not something that we're asking them to do that's irrational. And for all the experts and naysayers who said, this will be tragic in response to the tariffs that Trump placed, now we see what it's like when America is winning. And, recently we had this from Mexico.
Fox News Alert, and the breaking news of the day is on tariffs. And we just have word that the Mexican president spoke to Donald Trump, and they are going to pause the tariffs on Mexico for 1 month. And Jackie Heinrich is standing by at the White House with more on this development. Hi, Jackie.
Good morning, Dana. Yeah, that was pretty short-lived. The president spoke with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, the two sides agreeing to pump the brakes on the tariffs and then retaliatory tariffs that Mexico promised for the period of a month while they work out the terms of an agreement. The Mexican president just posted some of the details. Mexico is going to immediately send 10,000 members of the National Guard to prevent drug trafficking from Mexico to the United States, particularly fentanyl.
So you have that. And I also gotten word that Canada has now also capitulated to the demands of President Trump. So we have so much winning going on, just like Panama, which has now ended all Chinese Belt and Road initiatives, honoring the treaty that we signed with them, actually, that they were violating, just like Colombia, who in 6 minutes reneged on not allowing us to send back violent criminals that we have deported from our country back to theirs. Just like Mexico, you just saw now deciding to secure their northern border by sending 10,000 troops to the border to help with fentanyl. We also are going to help them with, I think, stuff with weaponry and things like that. And just like Canada now, from what I'm hearing, they're sending 10,000 personnel matching Mexico to the northern border, their southern border, in order to help to stop the fentanyl crisis. Trudeau has just announced that he's going to have a fentanyl czar, which is kind of like a person specially appointed to a position to focus on a singular issue. So we have all this winning, and this is what winning really looks like. And some people may find it mean. Some people may say, oh, well, you can't ruffle the feathers But how are we to get things done when they've been this way for decades and no one has fixed the problem? You can't do the same thing over and over again hoping for a different result, because we know the definition is insanity. Yes, it's not, this winning looks like not allowing people to take advantage of you just because you're friends. Like, for instance, if your friend kept borrowing money from you and wouldn't pay you back, but kept coming back again and again asking for more, and at first you're like, okay, I'm gonna help you out. Here you go. It's okay, man. Just get back to me when you can. But eventually they kept doing it and taking advantage of you, like Canada, like Mexico, like Panama, like Colombia. Wouldn't you turn back to your friend and say, hey, man, no, you got to pay me. You got to do your fair share. You got to give me back. I've been this way for you and I need your behavior to change. Wouldn't you ask for them to change their behavior? There's no difference here. It's the same here. And it's tough, but we cannot be disrespected. And Trump understands this better than any president in my lifetime. And, that brings me to today's question. And the question is, why doesn't Trump get credit for these strategic works, these amazing strategic works from Panama to Canada, when all the pundits say, oh, you can't do this, this won't work, this is a bad idea, he's terrible, he's the worst guy ever, he doesn't know what he's doing. And then literally like the next day, oh my God, they're signing these agreements, everything's working out. Canada, Panama, Colombia, Mexico, all these places. And I hear Greenland is on the verge, by the way. They're just, doing the right things. And the right things, in our perspective, means America first. So you can't run away from that because it's important. So when, we do these things, they matter. And because they matter to us, I think our president should actually be seeking to do those things as well. So my thing is, like, when do we say this man actually knows what the heck he's doing and his methods are actually working? Anyway, that's all I have for The Right Angle. We'll see you on the next one.